The frozen winds of planet Thavok cut across the mountains like sharp blades, but Ethan Grant kept moving through the deep snow. His scanner kept blinking with a faint distress signal, so weak that most people would have ignored it. But Ethan had never been able to ignore a call for help, not after the mistakes he carried from his past. The cold stung his face and his breath turned to ice crystals in the air, but he pushed on, climbing higher toward the source of the signal. The sky above him was gray and filled with fast-moving clouds. Snow swirled around his legs with every step, slowing him down. His heated suit kept him alive, but even it struggled against the brutal storm. Ethan wiped frost off his visor and checked the scanner again. The signal dipped, flickered, then surged again. "Someone's alive out there," he whispered to himself. "Hold on." The mountains around him stood tall like jagged towers. The wind howled through narrow ridges, echoing loudly. Ethan leaned forward to avoid being pushed back. He had been on survival missions before, but this planet had a different kind of cold one that felt alive, as if it wanted to trap anything that wandered too far. He climbed another steep hill before he finally saw something unusual half buried in the snow. At first it looked like a broken statue or a piece of crashed machinery, but as he got closer, he saw the shape clearly. A body, a woman, an alien woman. Ethan hurried forward, brushing away snow from her face gently. Her skin had a soft silver-blue color, glowing faintly under the frost. Her hair was dark, long, and frozen stiff. Her armor was cracked along the chestplate, as if she had survived an explosion. Even unconscious, her features looked strong, confident, almost regal. She wasn't human. She was Solari, a species known for their heat-based energy bodies. If she stayed in this cold any longer, she would die. Ethan knelt beside her, checking her breathing. It was shallow, faint, almost gone. He scanned her vitals through his wrist device. The readings were unstable, dropping fast. A Solari warrior lost in an ice storm. It was a miracle she was still alive. Hey, can you hear me?" Ethan said softly. She didn't respond. Her eyelids didn't even flicker. He touched her hand. It was ice cold. No time left. Ethan lifted her carefully, shocked by how light she was. Her armor felt warm in some places and freezing in others, like it was failing. Her head leaned against his shoulder as he carried her. The storm grew stronger, forcing him to take slow, careful steps, but he refused to stop. "You're going to be all right," he said, even though she couldn't hear him. Snow whipped at his face, and the wind almost knocked him over. But he moved forward, step after step, using the scanner and his memory of the terrain. He had passed a cave earlier during his search. If he could reach it, they would have shelter. Minutes felt like hours. His muscles ached, and the cold crept through his armor. He tightened his hold on her, as if warming her through sheer will. At last he reached the small cave entrance, partly hidden behind a rock formation. Ethan ducked inside, careful not to bump her head on the low ceiling. The inside was dark, but sheltered enough. Ethan set her gently on the ground, activated a portable heat generator, and placed it near her. Warm orange light filled the cave, making the air more comfortable. He wrapped her in his spare thermal blanket and rubbed her hands to increase circulation. Slowly, her skin color deepened from pale ice blue to a healthier warm tone. Her breathing improved slightly. Ethan sighed in relief and sat beside her. He removed his helmet to let warmth reach his face. The storm outside continued to roar, but inside the cave, it felt safer. After some time, the alien woman's eyelids twitched. Her lips parted slightly as she took a deeper breath. Ethan leaned forward, watching her carefully. Her golden eyes opened. She blinked a few times, confused, trying to understand where she was. Her gaze moved across the cave until it stopped on Ethan. She stared at him as if trying to guess his intentions. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then her voice, weak but steady, broke the silence. "You helped me," Ethan nodded, smiling softly. "You were freezing out there. I couldn't leave you." The woman shifted slightly, frowning at her broken armor and the thermal blanket wrapped around her. She looked frustrated but also relieved. Even weakened, there was a strength in her expression. "My name is Lirana," she whispered. "Warrior of the Solari Vanguard." "Ethan," he replied. "Human, explorer, not much of a warrior." Lirana tried to sit up straighter, but her body trembled. Ethan reached out to help, but she stopped him with a raised hand, trying to maintain dignity. After a moment, she allowed herself to accept the help. "I lost control of my ship," she said. "Raiders shot me down. I escaped the crash, but..." She glanced toward the storm outside. "This cold. My species is not made for it." "You don't say," Ethan joked gently. "You were almost frozen solid." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not understanding the humor, but then she relaxed. "I am alive because of you. Human. Anyone would have done the same," he said. "No," she replied firmly. "Many would have ignored the signal. You did not." Ethan looked away, uncomfortable with praise. "I just don't like losing people." Lirana's eyes softened with curiosity. She seemed to want to ask more, but her weakness stopped her. Instead, he gave her water and a nutrient pack. She hesitated before taking it. "My kind does not usually accept aid from outsiders," she murmured. "So pretend I'm not an outsider," he said with a small smile. Her golden eyes held his for a moment before she took the pack quietly and began to eat. The warmth from the generator washed over her, and her trembling lessened. Slowly, her body regained strength. Hours passed. Outside, the storm weakened, allowing soft light to fall into the cave. Ethan repaired his communication device, hoping to call for rescue, while Lirana studied him silently. "You are calm," she said after a while. "Sitting here with someone who could overpower you." Ethan shrugged. "If you wanted to hurt me, you would have already. Besides, I didn't save you expecting danger in return." Her expression shifted, almost confused. "Humans are very strange." "Thank you," Ethan replied. She let out a soft, unexpected laugh. It surprised even her. Her posture straightened as she tested her limbs. The warmth had restored some of her strength, though she still moved carefully. She stood and walked to the cave entrance, looking out at the snow-covered land. Her hair flowed gently behind her as she breathed deeply. "My people do not ignore life debts," she said without turning. "A life saved must be repaid." Ethan shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." She turned around sharply, her eyes glowing brighter now that her energy was returning. "You are wrong, human." She walked toward him, each step steady and deliberate. Ethan suddenly felt smaller, not because she threatened him, but because she carried a powerful presence that filled the cave. "You saved my life," she said. "Among the Solari, this creates a sacred bond." Ethan raised a hand awkwardly. "Really, it's fine." "No," she interrupted. "It is my turn." "Your turn for what?" he asked, confused. She stepped closer until she stood right in front of him. In her golden eyes, he saw seriousness, determination, and something ancient. "You saved my life," she repeated. "Now it is my turn, human." The warmth in the cave suddenly felt different, heavier, filled with meaning he didn't yet understand. Whatever she intended, it was important, and it was only the beginning. Lirana stood firmly in front of Ethan, her golden eyes glowing with a quiet strength that filled the cave. The heat generator hummed softly beside them, casting warm light across the rough stone walls. Ethan looked up at her, confused, unsure what she meant by her serious words. He had heard of life debts in some alien cultures before, but he didn't know how the Solari treated them. And Lirana seemed very serious, almost formal, as if she had just made a promise that could not be broken. "I don't understand," Ethan said gently. "What do you mean it's your turn?" Lirana lowered herself to one knee, not in weakness but in something closer to a ritual. Ethan jumped slightly, not expecting that. Her armor made a soft sound against the stone floor. She placed one hand over her heart, and for a moment, the patterns along her skin glowed brighter, like warm sunlight moving under the surface of water. In Solari culture, she said slowly. When someone saves your life, you bind yourself to them. You protect them, guide them, and repay the life they preserved. Ethan blinked. But I didn't save you expecting anything. I did what anyone should. Lyrana raised her chin. Many would not have done it. You risked yourself. That makes this bond real. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Look, I appreciate the respect, but you don't have to kneel or anything. Lyrana hesitated, then rose back to her feet. She looked slightly embarrassed, as if she hadn't expected a human to react like that. She brushed frost from her armor and took a slow breath. Her strength was still returning, but she looked far better than earlier. You humans have strange rules, she muttered. Ethan laughed softly. Maybe. But trust me. Kneeling in front of someone makes us uncomfortable. I will remember that, Lyrana said seriously, as if adding it to a list of important human knowledge. A soft silence settled between them. Outside, the storm grew quieter, and snow drifted down gently through the entrance. The worst had passed. But now came the hard part, figuring out what came next. Ethan checked his communication scanner again. It still showed faint interference from the mountains, but the signal was slowly clearing. If the weather improved, he could send a distress beacon by evening, maybe sooner. Lyrana walked toward the entrance again, watching the cold landscape with a calm, thoughtful expression. The wind brushed her hair, and the fading storm reflected golden light in her eyes. Ethan, she said without turning. Why were you alone in these mountains? Humans rarely travel Solari territory. He sighed, sitting on a rock and stretching his sore legs. I was surveying mineral deposits for my research guild. I wasn't supposed to go far, but the distress signal pulled me off my route. And you followed it without hesitation, she said, almost whispering. Yeah, Ethan replied. I've made mistakes before. I don't like leaving people behind. Lyrana turned to face him. She studied him for a long moment. The way she looked at him wasn't judgmental, it was curious, almost impressed. She walked closer and stood before him again, her posture controlled and confident. You have a strong heart, human. Just doing what's right, Ethan said. That is strength, she insisted. Many have power. Few have heart. Before Ethan could respond, the scanner beeped. He looked at it quickly. The signal interference had decreased, meaning rescue communication would soon be possible. But something else caught his attention. A strange energy reading flashed across the screen. Wait, what is that? Ethan frowned. Lyrana stepped closer, leaning slightly over his shoulder to see. That's signature. I recognize it. 100 making life 4. The topper-eyed BM. What is it? Raiders, she said, her jaw tightening. They followed my vessel. They must have tracked the crash site. If they find us, they will not leave survivors. Ethan's heart dropped. How many? I do not know, Lyrana answered, taking a slow breath. But they hunt in groups. Ethan didn't need more explanation. He looked around the cave, suddenly aware of how exposed they were. They had warmth, but no real cover. We need to move, he said quickly. If they scan this area, we're easy to find. Lyrana nodded. My strength is returning. I can fight. But you cannot remain here. Ethan packed the generator and supplies, while Lyrana secured her cracked armor. Even damaged, it looked intimidating. As she tightened her arm guards, a faint glow pulsed across the metal, reacting to her energy. When they stepped outside, the storm had weakened enough that they could see across the valley. Snow stretched in all directions, interrupted by tall mountain peaks. The landscape looked peaceful now, but danger could appear at any moment. Your crash site is this way? Ethan asked. Lyrana shook her head. It is destroyed. Raiders will search it first. They will then sweep the area. Then where do we go? Lyrana pointed toward a distant canyon. There is a geothermal fissure. My people built a hidden shelter long ago for emergencies. We can hide there. Created, Ethan nodded. Lead the way. They walked quickly across the thick snow, leaving footprints behind. Lyrana moved with more control now. Her steps were steady, though she still breathed harder than normal. Ethan stayed close, watching the scanner for any signs of raider activity. After half an hour of walking, the scanner beeped again. Ethan paused. They're near, he whispered. Lyrana placed a hand on his arm. Stay close to me. They crouched behind a snow mound just as 3 raider drones flew across the sky. They were small machines with sharp wings and glowing red sensors. They scanned the ground back and forth with beams of light. Lyrana held Ethan close, shielding him behind her body. Her stance was steady and calm. After a tense minute, the drones flew away. Ethan exhaled. That was close. They will search wider areas soon, Lyrana said. We must hurry. They continued their journey. The mountains gradually shifted into narrow slopes leading toward a canyon. But before they could reach it, a faint explosion echoed through the valley. Snow shook loose from nearby rocks. Ethan turned. What was that? Raiders found my crashed ship. They are destroying evidence, Lyrana said. They will sweep this direction next. They began to run. Ethan's breath became heavy in the cold air, and his legs burned, but he pushed on. Lyrana stayed beside him, matching his pace even with her weakened state. At last, they reached the canyon. It was narrow and steep, with sharp walls of dark stone rising around them. Warm steam drifted from cracks in the ground, hinting at geothermal heat below. Lyrana led him to a flat rock wall. She pressed her palm against it. Glowing lines appeared under her hand, forming a circular pattern. The stone trembled and slowly slid open, revealing a hidden corridor filled with warm air. This is Solari tech, Ethan whispered, amazed. It will protect us, she said. Come. Inside, the shelter was small but secure. The walls glowed with soft yellow light. The air was warm enough that Ethan removed his helmet. Lyrana took a long breath, her body relaxing slightly. We are safe for now, she said. Ethan sat down, exhausted. He looked at her as she checked her armor damage. She moved with more confidence now, her energy returning. Even injured, she carried herself like someone who had survived countless battles. When she noticed him watching, she walked over and kneeled beside him. You look tired, she said. I'm all right, Ethan replied, though he felt like collapsing. You humans push yourselves too far, she murmured. You push yourself too, he countered. Lyrana smiled faintly. Yes, but I am Solari. My body recovers quickly when warm. Ethan nodded. I'm glad you're doing better. She lowered her voice slightly. You saved me again out there. You protected me when the drones came. You did not hesitate. You're my friend now, Ethan said simply. I'm not leaving you to fight alone. Her eyes widened, as if the word friend was heavier than he knew. She looked away briefly, gathering her thoughts. Then, she faced him again. Ethan, she said softly, you do not understand yet. When a Solari accepts a life debt, they give more than gratitude. They give loyalty, protection, and something more. What do you mean? He asked. She placed a hand over her heart. A warm glow spread across her palm. I told you earlier, she said. Now it is my turn, human. He swallowed, unsure what she planned. Lyrana leaned closer, her golden eyes bright and steady. You saved my life. Now I will save yours, no matter what comes next. The shelter hummed softly around them, but Ethan felt something shift in the air, something deeper, important, and unbreakable. Their bond had only just begun. The hidden Solari shelter hummed softly, its warm lights filling the chamber with a gentle glow. Ethan sat beside Lyrana, still trying to understand everything she had said. She spoke calmly, but her words carried a weight he couldn't ignore. She had declared her loyalty to him, her life debt, something rooted deep in Solari culture. Ethan didn't take it lightly, yet he still felt unsure how something so simple as helping someone survive could lead to such a strong bond. Lyrana sat across from him, repairing her cracked armor with tools from the shelter's emergency kit. The golden glow in her eyes reflected off the metal plates, making her look alive in a way that warmed the room more than the geothermal heat ever could. Her movements were smooth and precise. Even injured, she held a warrior's grace. Ethan took a deep breath. "Lyrana, you don't need to protect me forever. I helped you because it was the right thing to do, not because I expected anything in return." She looked up from her work, her expression calm but firm. "And I repay you because it is the right thing for my people. A bond of life is not a chain, Ethan. It is a promise." He wasn't fully convinced, but her voice carried sincerity that made him hesitate before arguing again. Before he could respond, the scanner on his wrist began to beep rapidly. Ethan checked it, his expression turning serious. "The raiders. They're close again." Lyrana set down her tools and stood. "How close?" 200 meters, he whispered. "Maybe less. They must be scanning for the energy your ship released when it exploded." Lyrana's eyes narrowed. "They will not stop until they find us," Ethan swallowed. "We can stay hidden, right? This place is shielded." "It is shielded against detection," Lyrana said. "But not against a physical search. If the raiders find the canyon entrance, they can force their way in." Ethan stood beside her, unsure whether to fear or prepare. "What do we do?" Lyrana placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm, strong, steady. "You stay behind me." He shook his head. "No, I can help." "No," she said softly. "You have already helped more than you know. This is my fight." Ethan clenched his fists but didn't argue. He understood she fought not just for survival now, but for the debt she believed in. Still, he stepped close, refusing to act helpless. The shelter's door remained sealed as they listened to muffled sounds outside. Drones buzzed overhead, heavy footsteps crunched snow. Voices echoed faintly, rough, sharp, unfriendly. Lyrana's body glowed brighter, the patterns along her arms igniting like burning lines beneath her skin. Her energy was returning fast, fueled by the heat of the shelter. She stood like a shield in front of Ethan, ready to face whatever came. A loud metal clang echoed. Raiders had found something, a rock formation near the canyon entrance. Another clang followed. "They were searching," Ethan whispered. "How long until they find the door?" Lyrana listened carefully, her ears more sensitive than his. "Minutes," she said. He took a deep breath. "Then we fight together." She gave him a look, half annoyed, half impressed. "You humans truly refuse to listen." "I'm good at improvising," Ethan replied. Lyrana's lips curved into a faint smile. "Then stay close." A loud crack split the air outside. The raiders had triggered an explosive to test the canyon walls. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. The door vibrated lightly. Ethan tensed. "That didn't sound friendly." "They are trying to make the door reveal itself," Lyrana said. Seconds later, the stone slab of the hidden entrance lit up with the glowing circular pattern from earlier. The raiders must have detected the faint energy response. The door began to heat under the pressure of their tools. "They found us," Ethan said quietly. "They will regret it," Lyrana said, standing in front of the door with calm confidence. The door burst open. 3 raiders rushed inside. They were tall, armored scavengers with sharp gear and glowing red helmets. One aimed a weapon toward Ethan and fired a pulse shot. Lyrana moved faster than he expected. She stepped in front of him, her energy shield flickering to life with a warm golden flash. The pulse shot hit her shield and dissolved like sparks hitting water. The raider stumbled back, shocked. Lyrana's voice echoed in the chamber. "You will not harm him." Before the raider could react, she surged forward. Her hand glowed with bright light as she struck his armor. The impact sent the raider flying against the wall, knocking him unconscious. The other 2 raiders backed up, pointing their weapons at her, but she didn't give them a chance. She moved like fire in motion, fast, controlled, unstoppable. She knocked aside a weapon with her arm, spun, and used her energy to disarm the second raider. The third tried to strike her from behind, but Ethan grabbed a metal bar from the floor and swung at the raider's arm. It wasn't a strong hit, but it was enough to distract him. Lorana turned instantly, grabbed the attacker by the front of his armor, and threw him to the ground. Her golden glow pulsed as she placed her foot on his chest, pinning him. All 3 raiders were neutralized in less than a minute. Ethan leaned against the wall, catching his breath. His heart raced. "Remind me never to make you angry." Lorana looked back at him, the glow on her skin slowly calming. "You helped," she said. "That is brave. I just swung a pipe," he replied, embarrassed. "You swung it at the right moment," she said. "That is enough." Before they could rest, the scanner beeped again, louder this time. Ethan checked it with a sinking feeling. "There are more of them," he whispered. 5. No, 6 coming this way. Lorana's expression tightened. "We cannot fight them all." Ethan nodded. "Then we escape." Lorana grabbed his arm and led him deeper into the shelter. A narrow tunnel stretched out behind the main chamber. She pointed ahead. "This leads to an old geothermal vent. If we follow it, we leave the canyon from the other side." Ethan nodded quickly. "Let's go." They hurried through the tunnel, as the sounds of raiders filled the shelter behind them. The tunnel grew warmer, the deeper they went. Steam hissed from cracks, and the floor grew slick with moisture. Lorana supported Ethan when he slipped. He helped her when the tunnel narrowed. Despite the danger, they moved in perfect rhythm, each helping the other without thinking. Finally, they reached an opening, another hidden exit. Beyond it lay a sharp slope leading to open ground. Warm air drifted up from the geothermal fields below. "We made it," Ethan said, relieved. But Lorana lifted a hand, listening. Her eyes narrowed. "They are following," she said. "We must keep moving." They hurried down the slope. The land below was rocky but open, with warm vents releasing steam clouds. Ethan checked his scanner. "The interference is gone," he said excitedly. "I can send a distress signal now." He pressed the emergency beacon. A blue light pulsed as the signal transmitted across the region. "Good," Lorana said. "Help will come." But the raiders emerged from the tunnel entrance, shouting orders. They spotted Ethan and Lorana instantly and gave chase. Ethan grabbed Lorana's hand without thinking. "Run!" She squeezed his hand in return, and together they sprinted across the steaming plain. Ethan could hear the raiders' footsteps behind them, getting closer. A loud roar filled the air. Ethan looked up and saw a Solari ship descending through the clouds, glowing with bright golden thrusters. Lorana exhaled in relief. "My people!" The ship landed between them and the raiders. Solari warriors emerged, their bodies glowing like living flames. They quickly surrounded the raiders, who dropped their weapons and surrendered immediately. Lorana turned to Ethan, breathing hard but smiling. "You called for help, at the perfect time." Ethan smiled back. "Guess I did one useful thing today." "One?" Lorana stepped closer. "You saved me. Twice. And you fought beside me." A Solari commander approached. "Lorana, are you injured?" "I am well," she said. "Thanks to him." The commander looked at Ethan with respect. "A human saved a Solari warrior. That is rare." Lorana spoke before Ethan could answer. "He is under my protection. His courage equals any Solari." Ethan blinked. "Wait, your protection?" Lorana's golden eyes softened. She stepped closer and placed her hand gently over his. "Yes, my life is bound to yours now. Wherever you go, I go." Ethan felt his chest warm. "You don't have to. It is not about what I have to do," she said. "It is what I choose. You saved my life, human. Now it is my turn." He looked into her glowing eyes, understanding at last that her bond wasn't a burden, it was trust. And it meant their journey together was only beginning. They stepped toward the Solari ship side by side, the warm wind blowing behind them, carrying away the cold, the danger, and the fear. A new chapter was waiting for them, one built on courage, loyalty, and a bond stronger than either of them had expected.